Welcome to the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. I'm Lori Rivers with you, here to help you with some inspiration to get those aspirations out in the world. All right, on episode 52 episodes in 2022. Wow, that's wild. We got a few more to do as well. We are talking about the astrology of 2023. All right. And especially up till March, all right? I don't want you freaking out too bad, but we'll go over the astrology. Not in detail. I got a 2-hour seminar on that, okay? It's recorded and everything. But we'll go through what you need to know. I've already done your prep episode. You can look back in the other episodes to find that information, you know. I'm going to also talk a little bit about using the vast amount of information I create for you, all right, and about schedules and busy people, all right. I got a bone to pick with some people here. We'll talk about that because Jupiter is now in Aries, and we're feeling smarmy because it is trining my Mars. Oh, if you understand astrology, that was a funny joke. But anyway, we're going to talk about 2023. And what you can expect. There was an earthquake in Northern California. I had earthquakes on my forecast for patrons today. There's going to be more. No, California's not going to fall in the ocean. You guys need to get over that. You know, I know there are so many people who want to feel important in the spiritual world. I don't like to call it a community. In the spiritual world, you get all the drama queens going, and on the fifth night, this shall happen, and the world will end. You know, that's all bullshit. We can be spiritual and understand science. It's okay. It's okay. All right. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about the astrology of 2023 and what that means for you. And in the top of the program, I'm going to give you a little astrology lesson at the beginning and explain how natal astrology and mundane astrology work, okay? And why you don't need to freak out at every prediction, because it causes me a great deal of stress when you freak out. All right. If I'm not freaking out, you don't need to freak out. All right. If I'm freaking out, freak out. In fact, if I'm freaking out, freak the fuck out. But if I'm not freaking out, don't worry about it. Okay. Don't worry about it. We'll do our patron shout outs because patrons are amazing. And we reached over 700. Are you kidding? We have more than doubled our size in 2022, guys. That's incredible. Thank you so much. So we'll do a special patron shout out, and then I'll talk about the year ahead and the vast amount of astrology that is up on deck here on the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. Let's get going. All right, let's talk about how astrology actually works, because the one thing that actually gives me stress when I'm handing out predictions is people freaking out for no reason. All right, first of all, if you watch me on TikTok, if you listen to my podcast, don't freak out unless I'm freaking out. If I'm freaking out, freak the fuck out. There's a reason to freak out. But don't freak out for any reason if I say, hey, I'm seeing earthquakes. Hey, I'm seeing power outages. Hey. I'm giving you a heads up to prepare. But since when in the history of humanity has freaking out ever helped? And you say, Lori, I have anxiety. Guys, I lived with extreme anxiety the majority of my lifetime. I have only been clear of all such things since 2013, and it was really 2012, but the diagnostic information came back in 2013. So I go with the official date on the paperwork. But seriously, it's really only been 10 years. I understand. There's a reason I became an astrologer. I don't like freaking surprises. I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to know. It freaks me out. I'm like, oh, I want to know. I want to know because I don't like surprises, okay? That's how my anxiety back in the day used to work. So I do understand mental health challenges. I lived with them until I was almost 44 years old because of trauma. I understand. I get my first really nice Pluto transit. And yes, there are nice Pluto transits. Next year in March. I will have my first year without a Pluto transit in my entire life in 2026. I don't even know what life can be like without a Pluto transit. So don't give me that bullshit. All right, we're going to take a Big Lebowski attitude to life. And if you're a Gen Zer listening, you don't know who Big Lebowski is, Google is at your disposal. Use it. So, let's talk about the astrology. Mundane astrology is big picture stuff. It's the macro, okay? We're looking at the wider issues. Personalizing things that aren't actively happening in your daily life is an issue. Okay, so there could be a really big event somewhere. It could be a tragedy. It could be, a natural disaster. And we can have empathy for those people. We can have compassion for the people involved. But if it's not happening to you, it's not happening to you. I've said this before, but I really feel like we needed to have this conversation again. Okay, so you have an individual natal chart. That energy is static. You were born with that energy. It represents the spectrum of potential of energetical expression that makes you you. You and your astrology chart are one and the same. How you operate and express that energy is an individual level. And that's why a good astrologer has to understand a lot about people, a lot about the potential expressions, and study a lot of different things. Okay. So they can interpret the where that spectrum is expressing, right? The transits are the current movements of the celestial bodies, okay? And your horoscope or your reading, because your reading is going to be the most accurate if you have a reading with a good astrologer, that's going to be the most accurate take. That's why I do readings still, okay? All right. That's why I trained a bunch of people to do natal readings so I can focus on the transit readings. Because a natal reading interprets your individual makeup as a human being. The transits are showing the happenings, what's up on deck for you, what can happen for you, okay? How you might navigate the energy as it's happening on the planet, how you individually are going to deal with that, and what part of life is being emphasized, or different parts of life being emphasized, okay? So when I give a mundane prediction, like big economic problems, right? I've been talking about that since 2020, since like before all this, right? Now the economists are like, oh no, look at what's happening. I was talking about this for 2 years, okay? And it's going to continue. It is a big global economic downturn, all right? But it doesn't mean you're screwed. You could have some of the best economic times personally of your entire life. You really could. Why do you have to be screwed? All right? You're not destined for any particular outcome. There could be a challenge and you rise to meet it. Why would you infantilize yourself? Why would you disempower yourself? There is always a pathway. All right? There is always a pathway. And this new moon coming up can actually detonate a pathway forward. But not if you're luxuriating in the woe is me. That's not going to help. And I know I've been there. I've luxuriated in woe is me when I was younger. It was stupid. It held me back. Once I decided not to do that, and it was a decision, and it's not about being high vibe, but once I went, oh wait, what if I change my attitude a little bit? What if I stop just focusing on the problem? What if I seek a small solution? You can incrementally change how you see the world. And I said incrementally, and open up pathways for yourself. And then progress becomes very rapid after that. You can make up for lost time, trust me. But the sitting back and going, I've wasted so much time, I've wasted so many years, that fucks you over, so don't do it. Don't. Just watch the Bob Newhart sketch on Stop It. Stop it. So, and I say this because I want to give you guys this heads up, because at the end of this podcast, I'm talking about 2023. And what I don't want is a bunch of messages of, Lori, I'm scared. Lori, I'm freaking out. I can't fix that for you. I can't be responsible for people's emotional reactions. I'm going to just say that stresses me out. I'm giving you a heads up to prepare. Instead of thinking you're doomed, think about what else you can do, because you're never as stuck as you think you are. And seriously, I have been stuck in my life. And there were times I thought, oh man, there's no way out of this. But there was always a way out of it. Okay? That's what I want to be very clear about. So, your individual natal chart shows your potential expression of energy and it's on a spectrum. Who you are on your worst of days, who you are on your best of days, and who you are on an average day, and everything in between. The transits are how the energy of the moment is directly impacting you and how you can navigate those. And that's an astrologer's job. My job as an astrologer in a reading is to let you know what's up, what your opportunities, what your challenges are, and how best to navigate that energy. All right? All right. Now that we've got that clear, I feel like I'm giving a very stern mom lecture. Maybe I am. They call me Astro Mom. Not my favorite thing to be called. I'll accept it. You know, I love being a mom, but at the same time, because I am a very maternal person, people used to drop their children off with me when my kids were young. Just be like, hey, you can watch my kids. I'm like, I don't know you. Why are you dropping your child off with a stranger? Yeah. And I was a very committed mother to my 2 children. So I was like, I don't want to be everybody else's mom. But I've always worked with kids. And I get that it's a sign of affection. So it's okay. Can you tell Jupiter is in Aries and it's trine in my Mars? Oh my gosh, it's crazy sauce. Feeling a lot of energy. I'm in my Jupiter opposition. Loving it. It's a good time to be alive. And I hear my crows off in the distance. That's always good. Oh, Malcolm, he barks at the crows. So anyway, do the inside barks, no outside barks, buddy. And yes, if you don't know who Malcolm is my dog, and he does indeed inside bark. All right, guys. So we're going to talk about 2023 and its energy. And it is a setup year for 2024, which is a setup year for 2025. Will there be a lot of stuff happening in the next year? Yes. Does it mean the world is going to end? No. Okay. Can you navigate these times? Yes. What's going to get you through it? Well, a positive attitude, a can-do attitude. And when I say positive, I don't mean pretending nothing bad is happening, but it is more like, this is where I'm at. What can I do? What is available to me? All right. A resilient attitude. Resiliency is the ability to bounce back after challenging circumstances. It is not strength. You do not need to be strong. You can sit down and have a good cry. When I say don't luxuriate and wallow, I am not saying that you have a day where everything is just a little too much and you sit down in the middle of the floor and you bawl your eyes out. That's fine. But don't stay there. Don't stay in the middle of the floor bawling your eyes out for 5 days, because that's where you get screwed. If you have half a day, it's okay. Sometimes that's the energy release that we need. Okay. Sometimes that's exactly what we need. Malcolm, inside bark, no sparks. All right? Sometimes that's exactly what we need, is that catharsis and release of energy. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. But when you consistently have a story that you tell every stranger, every person you meet, the clerk at the grocery store, have you ever met someone, I'm not saying you do this, but have you ever met someone, the minute they meet you, they tell you the How They Done Me Wrong song? That is going to put you on a pathway of problems. So instead of, and you see this in dating a lot. This might help your dating life. Astro Mom's Guide to Dating. Here we go. So you go on a first date, and somebody immediately starts talking about their last relationship. Red flag. You're in a present moment with someone else. Why would you tell the story of that? Now, I caught myself doing that when I first got divorced, right? So I wasn't ready to date. I took a hiatus, right? And then when I started dating again, I decided very, very firmly that under no circumstances would I talk about my past other than a few of my highlight reels of funny stories, right? Funny enough, the quality of dates got better because I wasn't attracting people, and it got quick because I could go meet somebody for coffee. And the minute they would be like, oh, my ex-wife or blah, 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 my last girlfriend, blah, 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 I'd be like, wow, I don't want to see this person again. I know where this is going. They're obviously not ready to date, or they just have a shitty background. And granted, I've had some interesting relationships. And I don't mean interesting in a good way. And so, I understood that. But then you're just going to keep the pattern going, right? And so that having that constant story of woe doesn't help. We have to focus on where we want to go. We'll be able to look back at where we've been in a different light, okay, as we heal and grow. So I can look back at those interesting relationships and go, you know what? This is what I learned. This is how that not necessarily pleasant experience actually helped me get on this path that I'm on. There was some motivation, like in my last marriage, because I've been married twice. I don't think I would have been driven for success in the same way. Some of my motivation was absolutely spite. Absolutely. If you're a Scorpio rising, or have Scorpio placements, you know what I'm talking about. Spite is a great motivator. I thought, you know what? I'll show him. I'll be successful. Yeah. It worked great for me. Thank you, jerk, for being the motivation. Doing great. Living well. Got a good life. But I don't think about it every day. Right? There was a time I did, and guess what? I wasn't doing very well because I was so focused on the past instead of the present moment and forward and the future. Where did I want to go? All right. So keep these things in mind. What gets you through 2023 is a future-focused mindset. If one way gets blocked, you're going to want to pivot and look for an opening. It may not be your favorite direction, but it might be exactly the zig you need to zag back on track later. There is more than one possible solution to every scenario. The idea that there is only one right answer is from public education and standardized testing. But there is always more than one way to get to where you want to go. You may not like the terrain. There may be only one way that's paved. You might have to pull out a machete and cut through the bush and blaze a trail somewhere. But just because that's another option doesn't mean there are no other options. You may not like the options, but sometimes the one you are resistant to is exactly the one that gets you to where you need to go. So that attitude is what will move you forward. But I'm tired, Lori. Welcome to being human. We're all tired. We were not meant to have a paved road the entire path. We were not meant to sit in a rose garden without thorns. We are born, we die. All of us, we are born, we die. That is part of life on planet Earth. What we do in the middle, is called living. And so with that, let's do a patron shout out, and then we will talk about the astrology of 2023. And don't be giving me, Lori, I'm scared. Don't be scared, be aware, all right? Be aware and be as prepared as possible, and know that you're not going to remember everything. All right, see you in the next segment. Well, holy moly and guacamole, we have reached over 700 patrons in the Awake Space on Patreon. That's amazing. Patrons sponsor what we do here. They sponsor the podcast. They make sure that I have the ability to grow. We've got over 700 of you now. We're at like 715, which is crazy sauce. So let's take a look now. For all of you who've joined, just understand you keep your pricing in 2023. We'll be raising the price on January 1st for the tiers. So, but if you're a current patron, you keep your pricing. So let's give a big shout out to our newest members. We've got Chrissy, Christina, Megan, BW, Julie, Joshua, Esther, Ryan, Athena, Meredith, Samantha, April, Gabby, Anna, Sarah, Erica, another Erica, PTK, Madison, Louise, AC, Nicole, Cece, Angela, Monica, Margie, Britt, Monica, Megan, Terry, Tara, Priscilla, TM, Alyssa, Sarah, Jay, Sasha, Caitlin, Amanda, Claire, Mary, Geffen, Angie, Tara, Chaslin, Jennifer, Kat, Caitlin, Becky, Suli, Anita, Lilith, Whitney, Caitlin, Nikki, Monica, Pamela, Bryson, Katie, Jen, Roz, Mimi, Alyssa, Kathleen, Suzanne, Jenny, Dulcie, Amy, Carrie, Bethany, and Cam. Thank you all for being our newest patrons at the Awake Space. We've got some cool stuff coming up in 2023. Like I said, we're going to raise the price on the tiers from 3 to 5 and from 11 to 15. And then we'll have another one come in. So hold tight. That one's going to be fun. I'll announce it in 2023, but we're kind of changing stuff up. But for those of you who already are patrons, you keep right where you're at. Nothing changes for you. You might get something juicy, but other than that, nothing changes from what you already get. So on the 21st, you folks are going to be getting your new moon intentions guide for each of the houses where that moon will fall, to give you some indication of the intentions to set and what will be most useful as you use and harness this energy of this very dynamic and powerful new moon coming up on the 23rd. Alrighty, thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is just wild and amazing, and I want to thank you. Make sure you take advantage of the year ahead for 2023 recording. You get it for $10 if you're a patron. You get it for $10. Otherwise, it's $33. So thank you. Thank you so much. All right, on TikTok, I said there were 4 parts to 2023, but there's really more like 6 parts. And I just didn't want to freak people out in a 1 minute or 15-second video. It was actually, there's no way I can cover all of the astrology on a TikTok. I can't, okay? And it's really funny because people who don't produce content do not understand the time it takes. Like, I just took a break from recording this podcast, and I took about an hour because I was filming a freaking TikTok with no transitions because I had to shoot and reshoot, and then I had to make sure the subtitles were somewhat correct. I didn't do the whole thing, and I just saw an error, but oh well. You know, I put my little Grinch stickers. It takes time, guys. It's not exactly hard. Okay, it's not hard work. It's not digging ditches. It's not having to deal with a cranky boss. God bless my life. I am lucky. But you have no idea the amount of time it takes to make those things. So a 15-second video can take 45 minutes to shoot and edit and blah, blah, blah. That's why I don't do all of the fancy trends, because nobody comes to me for that. That's not what I'm here for. So with all of that in the way, let's talk about 2023 and the parts. So we really have about 6 parts to the year. I might even be able to break it up a little more. But the first part starts in early January. We end the year with Venus conjunct Pluto. And Mercury has already stationed retrograde on top of Venus. So it's economic. We see the sham for what it has been since the 90s. Okay, this situation we're in was not caused by 2020. It was caused a long time ago, and those of us who were making arguments with policymakers back in the 90s, and I did have access to policymakers back then, it was like, hey, you do this, and I could see the reasons, and yet you do it. It takes one natural disaster, to really screw things up. And the supply chain and the manufacturing and the resources, these were weak ahead of the pandemic. Didn't take a lot to tip it over. China is going to have its COVID mess. They open things up. I think there's a lot of different ways to deal with things than how they've been dealt with. I think there's certainly more humane ways of dealing with lockdowns. I think we could innovate how things are done, but the problem is we've got people my age and up running things, and they get very stuck in their ways with how to do things. Very few people, even in my age group, and I'm in my 50s, are open to change, and it's stupid. We could make online stuff a lot more fun. We could make online meetings more fun. We could make online education engaging. In fact, I helped design a program back in 2014 with a special education high school on how to make an online learning experience engaging, fun, cause retention of the information, get student involvement, because a lot of the students there have a hard time being in social situations and still need learning opportunities from home. That got scrapped by the president of that school, but they kept the plans. So when the lockdowns happened in 2020, they were able to hit the ground running, and their students didn't lose progress because we had plans in place and processes in place. She's not just an astrologer, guys. So, getting those arguments out of the way. January, you have some time to still prep after the holidays here coming up, from now till about the 12th of January to get stuff in order. You'll feel the pressure starting on the 6th because we have a full moon in Cancer that day. All right. And it's a doozy. It's a doozy because we're starting to see the system continue to crumble. One of the analogies or metaphors I've used is we've got a Jenga tower and we've been pulling the pieces. Well, this Jenga tower is getting ready to tumble. It's not going to tumble quickly, but it's tumbling. Okay, so we're pulling those last pieces out in 2023 and 2024. And we have to put our eye not to what is tumbling, but what we want to build. And that's what you want to put your attention on this new moon coming up on December 23rd. And then start making plans for your 2023. And I wouldn't just have one plan, because shit is volatile. Starting on January 12th, we have a heck of a situation brewing, because we have Mars stationing direct. So Mars has been retrograde forever and a day, and it is just super not fun. And then we have Mercury stationing direct right after that on like the 18th, I believe. Could be the 15th. I have to look. But anyway, it's that week. And then we have Uranus stationing direct on the 22nd. Now, I know a lot of popular astrologers will be like, yay, Mercury's direct. Everything's direct. Let's go. Yeah, cuties. The fact that a planet changes its apparent motion just shows there's a lot of energy. And with everything direct, that means we've got all out chaos moving. It's going to be very disruptive. So we're going to slide through the rest of January, slam into February. We probably won't remember much of February, because when March shows up and we have Saturn move into Pisces, we've got your Pluto moving into Aquarius, and we've got Mars moving into Cancer. Boom, boom, boom. That's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of energy. We've never experienced Pluto in Aquarius consciously before. No astrologer can actually give you 100% of what is going to happen. We can give a very good educated guess looking back through history. But all those people talking about the French Revolution, that was Uranus, okay? Pluto was not active. It was super subconscious for humans. We couldn't observe it. We didn't know it existed. I honestly attribute Pluto to us not blowing ourselves up. You know, I think if we hadn't discovered Pluto in 1930, the atomic age would have looked very, very different. And so I think we're going to see the results of climate change. I think we're going to see some flooding. I think we're going to see, a whole lot of stuff happen. I think there's going to be stuff go down in Antarctica. I think, like one of the glaciers could go next year. I think we're going to see power outages. I think we're going to see cell phone interruption. I think we're definitely watching the internet transform, probably not in a great way to start. I mean, we're already looking at what is Elon doing to Twitter. I think social media will be under pressure. I do believe Reddit will be all right. I believe Pinterest will be okay. Facebook is already fucked up. TikTok will be under pressure. I don't think it goes down in the States. I think it'll have to change some stuff, but we'll see. It's kind of fighting for survival as we move forward in the year. So once Mars moves forward in April, I think we'll know more about what's going on with TikTok, because it has a Cancer rising. So yes, I have TikTok's chart. So we move into April. April will then begin part 3. So part 1 is from mid-January really till March. Part 2 is March itself. March is its own thing. And then we have April, May, which is kind of like part 2B, part 3A, because in April, Pluto stations retrograde. Okay, so it's only direct for a couple of weeks in Aquarius, and then it slams backwards, and it will end up back in Capricorn on June 11th. So May 1 is really where Pluto is moving in retrograde motion. We've got a big lunar eclipse coming up on the 5th. It's not a total, but it's big because the 5th on the west coast of the United States is the 6th of May in Great Britain, and that is the coronation. And that chart is just not great for the royal family. That's just too damn bad. I am not a royalist. I come from a family that actually fought in the revolution. We were on the French's forces. It doesn't spell longevity for the king. And given that the new moon eclipse of October 25th, 2022 was on Prince William's Midhaven, I'm thinking Prince Charles won't live through, I don't think he'll necessarily live through the end of 2023. And I think the monarchy itself is challenged. Great Britain is at the end of losing its empire, so I think the Commonwealth itself is disrupted, and we're looking at great amount of change when we look at the political dynamics on the planet. All empires are falling. It's not just one, all of them. And but if you're a Taurus, you've got some interesting energy coming in. Jupiter enters Taurus. It's going to give you some benefits. So all that hard work you did between 2021 and 2022, you're going to start seeing some results. But maybe not in exactly when it enters, because on the 16th, 17th, it's square Pluto. And so that's big, bada boom. I think that's more economic turmoil. I think we will see famine. I think we will, and this is globally, you want to grow as much food as you can. Understand bad harvest also applies to us. So just like I was predicting bad harvests in 2022, when I was growing my own stuff this year, I could not get the tomatoes to go. I could not get them to go. They burned. Tomatoes were a no-go in my garden this year. So expect some of the things you planned to work out and some things not, depending on the weather where you're at, depending on the growing conditions. Be prepared to do some indoor gardening. That means you need grow lights. We could see some power disruptions in May as well. So that part 3A or part 2B is very volatile in May as well. And then June, oh my God, it is busting out all over. June starts us out with a full moon on the 3rd. Venus hits Leo. So what's going to be really funny is it's going to be like Great Gatsby type bullshit, because the divide between the haves and the have-nots is just going to continue to be exacerbated. And we do have people coming for the rich. Now, I want you to keep in mind what rich actually is when we're looking. We're looking at a fight between us and the billionaire class, okay? Us and the billionaire class. The unthinking rich, the entitled rich, the people who have done moderately well for themselves as self-made people, and there are no billionaires who are self-made. They all started somewhere. But the people who have built a good life by hard work, and there are those who might have a couple of million, and it sounds like a lot if you don't have any money. But honestly, with today's inflation rates and all of that, it's not what it was. Something I keep reminding myself of, because I'm certainly not a millionaire. But the better I do in business, the more I'm like, you're still like, this would have made you upper middle class when you were young, but it doesn't anymore. It's just, you've hit middle class, girl. And so, do I plan on building my life? Yeah, because I had to restart over with nothing at 48 years old. And I mean nothing, no retirement, nothing. I had nothing. Blew my life up real good, knowing 2020 was coming and that I would have the ability to make opportunity for myself. This is something I want you to remember. You need to make opportunity for yourself, okay? We don't get opportunity handed. And I teach this stuff in the Patreon and in my classes, not just about business, but just in life, how to make opportunity, how to use that Jupiter energy. Speaking of Jupiter, we'll have Jupiter sextile Saturn on June 9th, and those that are able to see and be willing to make opportunity and work within a fluid structure will do best. You want to MacGyver 2023. It's all about pivoting. You will have plan A through F, and you're going to have to pivot along the way. Nothing's going to turn out in a straight line in 2023. You've got to be innovative, okay? Of course, we have our summer solstice in June on the 21st, and there's luckily nothing huge around that day. Neptune stations retrograde on the 30th, and the sun is conjunct Mercury in a cazimi that day. I'm pretty certain that we will have some interesting information come out government-wise at that time. Do not worry about President Trump becoming president again. He will not. I told you guys that since June of 2022. Please remember, I am the astrologer that basically said this boy wasn't going anywhere. All right, July is wild. We start with a full moon on the 3rd of July. It's a very volatile full moon. Mars will enter Virgo, Mercury enters Leo, and then on the 12th. And basically for a month, the North Node will be in an exact square with Pluto retrograde. This is where some fireworks are going to come. I know there's a lot of people predicting a civil war. I do not see anything like that happening successfully, but I do see attempts to foment such things. We're probably going to see some violence in regional pockets, some minor domestic terrorism. There could even be some loss of life, but it will not start an actual civil war, okay? Will be disconcerting, but globally, we are looking at climate change on a massive scale at that point. We are looking at a really horrible wildfire season in both hemispheres. We're going to see extreme weather. The new moon in Cancer will happen on the 17th. The sun moves into Leo on the 22nd. On the 23rd, Venus retrograde is started, and then we've got Mercury ingress into Virgo. So Venus doesn't spend very much time in Virgo in July, and then she slides back into Leo in August. She'll be in Leo for quite a lot of the time next year. And so people are going to be looking at health issues. People are going to be looking at there's going to be a lot of anxiety with Venus and Leo. People forget about that. It's not just insecurity. It's Leo rules the fifth house. The fifth house rules risk. And so where there's risk, there's reward, but you also risk failure. And so you really have to get over being afraid of failure in 2023 if you want things to work out. You just want to prepare for things to work or not work. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, so we're still in part 3 of 2023 in August and September. And so August is when we start moving to part 4, where we start getting things starting to get a little bit more intense, and as we try to solve some global issues. September, end of August, early September begins part 3B or part 4. And that's when Venus goes direct. She's in Leo. September 3rd, September 4th, Jupiter retrogrades. September 9th, Mercury retrogrades. September 9th, it is not retrograde. Take that out. Mercury is direct. Oh, I keep forgetting. I need to change the September slide. Don't worry about it. We're not to September yet. I'll have that slide fixed by then. October is volatile with Pluto stationing direct. Venus enters Virgo because remember it retrograded back into Leo. So it re-enters Virgo. We have Pluto direct on the 10th. We have Mars ingressing into Scorpio on the same day as the new moon eclipse on the 14th in Libra. And that's my lunar return. I'm kind of curious about I'm kind of curious about that, people. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. My lunar return is at the time of the eclipse. I don't think it's bad. If you're not a world leader, you don't have to worry about it as much. So the new moon is the solar eclipse, and the full moon in Taurus is the lunar eclipse. So October, we'll see the two eclipses. They're pretty volatile as well, globally. But remember, I talked about this earlier in the podcast. Just because it's volatile in the world does not mean you cannot do well for yourself or have a good life, okay? But attitude is everything. Perspective is everything. You don't look at, a pea sample and call it lemonade, okay? But you can also not drink the pea. I know that's crude, but I'm just trying to make examples for you, okay? In November, so it would be part 4B or part 5. It would be November because we have a hell of a lot of stuff going direct here. We've got Saturn direct, Venus enters Libra, Mercury enters Sag. We've got a new moon, which of course we always have new moons and full moons every month. Mars will enter Sagittarius around Thanksgiving. That's probably one of the least volatile months of 2023. But then there's December, and we wind December up with a bang. Neptune will station direct on the 6th. We'll have the new moon on the 12th. Mercury will station retrograde the next day on the 13th. The solstice looks pretty clear, but Mercury will enter Sagittarius like a couple days later. We have that nice big old full moon in Capricorn on the 26th. Venus enters Sag, and then we end the year with Jupiter direct, and we begin the year with Mercury direct. And 2024 begins its year as well, and it's volatile too. Lori, when is it getting better? You keep asking me. Better is relative. Better is relative. On one hand, I am here for the shakeups that's going on with the planet. I am. You can't just live your life robotically, okay? You can try, but how is that living? You're born and you die. What you do in between is called living. So, it's going to be interesting, folks. It is. It's going to be interesting. The volatility is there. The thing that always gets me is how much people really root for royalty and CEOs, and they act like these people know better. They don't. Royalty are all inbred to start with, and I don't care where in the world you are. And I don't know if you know what that does to your intelligence quotients, but honey, inbreeding is not good for humanity. It's not good for any species. And remember, humans are mammals. And they do not know better, but they are going to try to hold on to power, and they are losing power regardless. First of all, the mess called climate change. That's going to impact every single person. I don't care how wealthy you are. Okay. So I want you guys to really keep your pantries as full as possible. I know it's hard when you're paycheck to paycheck. I know it's hard when you don't have a paycheck. I've been in all of those places. I have had a really weird life. All right. I have hung out and been in with the elites, if you want to call them elites. I don't really think they are. But I've had a lot of money. I've had no money. I started out working class as a kid, worked my way up, flew too close to the sun, came crashing back down, went into poverty, worked my way out of it. I have lived in all spaces. I kind of like the middle ground, to be honest. It's a little easier to maintain. And the way I've done it is exactly what I'm trying to teach you guys how to do, which is play to your strengths. Don't try to get good at things you suck at. That doesn't mean don't learn new things. I have always been interested in technology. I wasn't always good at it. I had to learn it. People watch me play around with a website or do the astrology, and they'll be like, oh my God, you're so much better than me. And I'm like, yeah, I've put hours of time and practice into it. I damn well better be better than somebody who's just beginning. That doesn't make you horrible or a bad person or stupid. It just means you got to put more time into it. You got to put your shoulder into it, folks. You got to put in some time and discipline. And you're like, but I don't have time. I didn't have time either. You make time, folks. You make time. Okay. That's why I talked about it at the beginning of this podcast. You can sit and wallow and waste time, or you can have that good cry, dust yourself off, get up off the floor, and find one thing you can do. Now, if that one thing is doing laundry or the dishes, God bless you. If that is, all right, I'm finally going to learn how to put a website together. That works. If it is, I'm going to go take a walk or take a drive to clear my head. Good for you. If it is calling a friend or a counselor, good for you. Okay? You can have your range of emotions and understand that you've got to do something. You can't just sit down and wait for stuff to come to you, because it doesn't. I've spent my time with magical thinking where I sat and I wished and tried to wish things into being. But you know what happened because of that? Now, not a whole lot. But all of a sudden, an idea would pop into my head. And when I learned to take action on the ideas that popped into my head, things improved. And next year, that's exactly what you want to do. You want to follow those crazy ideas. All right? And patrons, as always, I will keep you up to date on the energy and what's going on. Alrighty? If you're not a patron, you can keep listening to the podcast. And I'll be having some classes on reading natal charts. Again, we're going to do the natal chart for personal enrichment. And then I'm going to offer some professional development courses for readers of all kinds, because it's a business model, guys. It's a business model. We'll cover professional ethics as well, because I don't care if you're a medium, a psychic, intuitive healer, astrologer, numerologer, tarot reader. I don't care what you're doing. We have ethics, and they're standard across the board. And I think that really needs to be taught. We see way too many people just saying whatever they want to say, traumatizing people or empowering people's trauma, which is unethical, and it's mean and it's cruel. We don't need to do that. I'll be even teaching some coaching techniques on so you know how to work with your clients in better and more effective ways in 2023, because it is a good time to have an intuitive business, because people will be seeking advice and counsel. But it also means there's going to be a lot of charlatans out there taking advantage of people. And so I want to empower people so that they don't step on that ethics line. They know how to work with clients. So there are more people out there serving people in need in an ethical and professional manner. Alrighty, that was my soapbox for today. We got Jupiter in Aries as of today, and I'm in my Jupiter opposition, and it's training my Mars, and it's just wild. All kinds of energy for today. All right, my friends, I'm off to do my readings. I've got so many year ahead readings. Patrons, hold out. I've got a special holiday gift for you guys coming out soon. And so, yeah, I think I just hinted at what it was. But anyway, take care, my friends. Thank you for listening to the Awake Space Astrology podcast. If you want the 2023 year ahead replay, just hit the link in the description of this podcast. Also, I want to encourage you to become patrons in 2023. We've got all kinds of goodies coming up. And if you join now, you lock in the 2022 pricing. All right. And it's even better if you pay for the year ahead, all in one lump sum, and that just locks you in for a year of astrological goodness and advice. I'm Lori Rivers, your host, and I look forward to seeing you back on the next episode of the Awake Space Astrology Podcast.